Joining us today, we have Wilhelm de Wet and Hender Pretorius, for the two actuaries from SA3. Unfortunately, Yuri Host couldn't join us as he's down with a bug. Welcome, guys. Now, SA3 is back again at the 2023 convention as the platinum partner for the fourth consecutive year. Hender and Wilhelm, can you tell us, for the few actuaries out there who don't know who you are, what is SA3 about? Who are you and what do you do?
Roxanne, thank you. SA3 is an actuarial recruitment business. That's what we do. If you're an employer looking for an actuary, or whether you're an actuary looking for a job, we are the people to speak to. So we help actuaries find amazing opportunities, and we help employers find the best talent there is out there. We've really been blessed in many ways, and I think we've become the go-to people in South Africa when it comes to actuarial recruitment. I think what makes us unique is the fact that we are three fully qualified actuaries on our team, and between the three of us, we've got 26 years of industry experience and another 40 years of actuarial recruitment experience. So that's what makes us unique.
Roseanne, it's really a big privilege to have been in this industry for such a long time, because you get to place junior students and graduates in their first roles, and then you see them grow and develop until they are the managers who hire again for their own teams. Many people trust us, and we are very thankful for it.
Now, Wilhelm, your earlier session about actuarial salaries, it was very well attended. It garnered certainly a fair amount of discussion. What stood out for you from some of the comments from the floor?
Let me just start by saying this was a very interesting presentation. It was great fun preparing for the presentation, looking at all the data, and salaries are always a contentious issue. I think what stood out for me was, firstly, is that actuaries, we have a lot to be grateful for. We earn really good packages, and we have a role to play in society. I think that's the first thing that stood out for me. And then secondly, there's a strong local demand. There's a lot of work out there, and that usually has a positive impact on packages. And then lastly, I think if I looked at the sneak peek results, so the 23 survey results, it's encouraging to see that the increases this year have been really good. Bonuses are looking good, so it's a great time to be an actuary.
Thanks, Wilhelm. Now, the SA3 app has been around for the last 3 years. Why would actuaries, or what would actuaries benefit from downloading and using the SA3 app?
Yeah, Roxanne, the app has been a great success. We've had more than 2,000 downloads, 2,200 roughly. And we're constantly looking to improve it. This year, again, we've made a couple of improvements, so it's working really well. The app is very easy to use. If I can maybe highlight three things. The firstly is the salary survey. If you open up your phone, it's on the app. The yellow tile is very easy. Click on it, and you will get a few questions. If it takes you longer than a minute, then your salary is too big. It really is quick and easy. And then also remember that for every person that completes the salary survey, we donate 250 Rand towards the construction of a no-fee technical school. So I think the counter is on around 150,000 Rand already, so we're aiming for 300,000 Rand. So please get out there and give us contribute towards the survey. I think the second thing I'd like to highlight around the app is the vacancies tab. There's a new tab that gives us, instead of now needing to go to our website, you can just open up your phone. You have access to all the vacancies currently in South Africa and elsewhere in the world. And then lastly, there's a lot of interest from a lot of different parties around the schools that we are involved in. So we've created a schools tab. So if people want to know what's happening and where we're involved, and who knows, there might be a school close to you that you can get involved in. So there's a schools tab as well. So get out your phones. For those of you that have not downloaded the app, please do so. And I think back to the salary survey, it's the 8th year that we've run the survey. And it's incredible to see how widely the results are being used. It had a way bigger impact on the industry than we ever anticipated. So we encourage everyone to contribute, because the more people contribute, the more relevant the results. And then, of course, if you contribute, then we will give you the report, the salary survey report, in your inbox at the start of January. So please contribute.
Well, Hinda, given the strong local demand for actuaries, how can then employers or someone looking for some sort of connection or new role get in touch?
There's quite a few ways to get in touch with us. We're very glad to be back in Sandton this year, and we have an amazing exhibition booth. Liddell has really gone the extra mile to source some amazing gifts again. So please pop in at our stand, come and say hi. Even if you just come for a gift or a coffee, you won't be disappointed. You can also make contact with us through the SA3 app, as Valana has explained. You can thirdly reach us through the website at www.sa3.co.za. And lastly, we also respond to calls, emails, WhatsApp messages, and even LinkedIn messages.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is an absolute media icon. She's a legend. If you're old enough to remember the TV show Jam Alley, they would have said she's a bow wow, which means she's a big dog. Devi Sankaree Govender is an award-winning investigative journalist. She has been working for almost 3 decades in the field, boldly, bravely holding government, business, and individuals to account. If Devi is at your door or in your driveway, trying to get into your office, you know something's about to hit the fan. After 18 years at Carte Blanche, the longest running investigative TV show in South Africa, she left in 2020 to go it on her own, and she started her own show, Devi, on ETV and on ENCA. And since then, it's garnered millions of viewers. It won a SAFTA in 2021 as the best factual program in the country. And if you haven't seen it yet, this is Devi in action.
Let's go. I'm not Mrs. My name is Devi, right? Yeah. Devi show, you know the story. You know why I'm here. And can we chat? You're in trouble.
Looks like it.
Now, why don't you finally do an interview? He clearly wasn't too happy about our presence ahead of the proceedings.
Now you want drama. You're the drama queen, man.
TV is all about drama. It's very exciting for a consumer.
Well, maybe if you guys just did what you were supposed to do in exchange for money, we wouldn't be here. So how many people are still waiting for their air fryers by your own maths?
I would say there's about 4,000 people.
Hell's bells, man.
I can refund people that ask for refunds.
Then do it! How many people do actually own canopies?
About 580 at the moment.
Hell's bells, my friend. And what about allegations of big spending at a well-known strip club? So you didn't go spend on entertainment, alcohol, have a nice life, maybe some massage parlors and a few other things.
No.
Those students borrowed money from family members, friends, scraped money in tough times so that they could pay you.
Don't let them down, I know.
Every part's got a lid. I don't expect you to buy it, but we do live in Africa.
We have to go
Sorry, wait, we live in Africa.
We live in a lower income country.
Because we're African, we deserve less.
No, I'm saying you should see some of the stuff that goes up into Africa.
No, that's not what you said now. Do you know how many people I have who are complaining about you?
How many people?
Plenty. I've got over 50. Over 50.
Oh, about me? No.
You had 2 heart attacks. You're looking very well for somebody who had 2 heart attacks. You had the heart attacks or you didn't have the heart attacks? You lied. I did. The only one who benefits is you. You take the bucks and you leave.
I've taken no money from nobody.
I don't think this business idea of yours is working out.
But what must I do? It's not
Find a real job. That's what you must do, Wayne.
Can't offer to refund them all in full, unfortunately, because I have told them that I will still give them training.
They don't want your training because they're saying that the training is substandard. They want their money back. This is where you're on very shaky ground. Why do you sell things when you don't have stock? You sold him a router, you haven't got stock. Why?
Because it's an online store. You understand what I'm
saying? Do you think I'm a muhu, my friend?
No, I'm just asking.
No, now I'm getting irritated with you, right? What I'm saying to you is, you sell products, you take the money, and then your story is out of stock. What kind of business is that?
I want to give you a right to a reply. They want the validation to
Walking away is not going to help at this point, Lana. It actually doesn't even make sense. She owns this business. You stand up and you answer. You can't break the law and then you don't like the questions and then you jump in your car and leave. It doesn't work like that. People have to be accountable. Shahid, my friend, are you trying to block me? Come on, stop it. You can't do that. 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 You can't do that.
Oh, so you didn't pay the lawyer either?
Yes.
Because here, you know this message that you sent here, you said, I am busy with my attorney.
I did, yes.
Was not your attorney, you didn't pay the attorney,
I didn't
yeah?
pay it yet.
So why are you talking like a big boy here? Mike, you don't think you've got a problem? Hey? So now you're going to walk away?
No, I'm not going to walk away. I just think this is really bad.
You said you need a new battery. That's what you said.
Yeah.
You didn't even see the terminals.
You might as well back off because he said the only man he will deal with is me.
We can't understand why police were calling on Ben's behalf.
Stay away from him. He doesn't want nobody to interview him.
Dr. Mohamla, this form allows people to go out there and drive taxis and school buses. And those are the people driving on the roads and having accidents and putting our lives in danger.
They must explain to you your constitutional rights.
No, I'm not the police. I don't have to explain her constitutional rights. That's your job. You know what my advice to you is? Apply yourself better. Do the right thing. Stop the nonsense.
I love your programs. I watch your programs. You do fantastic work.
I like your shows.
How much?
So long as it's genuine, I love it too much.
But sometimes people need to tell the other side of the story as well.
Well, that's why I agree with you. Sometimes just sort your problems out because otherwise the problems come right to your front door. It's embarrassing. Sort it out. We're done here. Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks, Devi.
Righto. We'll pick up this tab.
Ladies and gentlemen, Devi Govender.
Thank you so much for this invitation. I really appreciate it and I need to apologize. This is my actual size. I always meet so many people and they're so disappointed that like, oh, you're so tiny. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, there's nothing I can do about that. I also really appreciate the fact that you're so happy to see me because that is my life, guys. No one is ever happy to see me. They're always crawling out through back doors when I arrive. It is that. So here's what we're going to do. For the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to tell you the crazy story of how I grew up in rural KwaZulu-Natal and had this amazing dream that I would be an investigative television journalist. Total madness. I'll tell you about that in a bit. And then I want to walk you through this plan that I had that I was going to leave Carte Blanche after 18 long, amazing years and step off the cliff and try to fly. One of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. And then I thought we could touch a little bit on work-life balance because that's really a tough thing, especially for me when, you know, that's my currency. My currency is not reviewing movies for a living. Not that there's anything wrong with that, guys, because there's all kinds of jobs these days. But it's the kind of work where you have to, really, but it's the kind of work that you got to stay permanently switched on. There's no such thing as downtime. And the favorite part for me is I thought we could do a little bit of a Q&A. We've got a couple of roving mics, and we're also going to be taking some questions from online. Okay, off we go. So I grew up in a little village called Umzintu, which is on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal, right next door to Scottsboro. So it's about 45 minutes south of Durban. And when I say rural, I mean absolutely rural. No traffic lights, no biscope. Giving my age away. Absolutely nothing. And I grew up in a very strict Hindu home and went to Catholic primary school. So whenever I say that to people, they go, now it makes sense what's going on upstairs here in your head. But I think I was one of those really lucky people. I went to a very nice Catholic convent school, state-aided. So don't think St. Anne's in Maritzburg. I didn't go there. I went to the poor cousin school. The difficulty that my parents had with me was that I had a really big mouth. You're not surprised, right, about that. But it was a bit of a problem for my parents because I grew up in an era during the 70s and 80s where children were meant to be seen and not heard. So my parents very quickly learned that the only way to keep me quiet was to pay me. Because the problem wasn't when they were around, the problem was when we had visitors. So the visitors would arrive from Durban, because remember, we were the country cousins. And the kids, Durban cousins were so excited to be playing hopscotch outside. They didn't do that clearly in Durban. And in those days, we all had that formal front room. Everybody here. If you didn't have it in terms of your parents, then your grandparents would have had it. You know that room with the 3-2-1 sofa configuration? You know that one? With the doily on the back. And everything that was important had a doily. Even the landline had a doily on top of it. So when the landline rang, you had to take the doily out. And anyway, I digress. That's not the point. So what would happen was, while the kids were playing outside, I would be that child, 6, 7 years old, who would sit in the front room with the men. Because remember, all the women would be in the kitchen preparing Sunday lunch. And that's when my 10,000 hours, that's when the clock started for me. Because I would sit on that sofa and I would have very adult conversations. So I would say, so where do you work? And how much do you earn? Do you like your job? So my parents learned with this girl, if you pay her, because I understood the love language of money a very long time ago. And my parents paid me to keep quiet, but they soon learned that it was imperative that you paid a deposit and only paid the rest when the visitors had left. When I was in Standard 8, grade 10, 2 very big things happened to me. 2 things that really changed my life. I was very involved in public speaking. It wasn't a choice. My parents made it very clear to my sister and I that that's what you did. And remember, there was no DSTV and all of that then, so I worked very hard at school. I was quite smart. And because you didn't have a choice, really, because I had uncles who were inspectors and principals, and whenever they came home in December, they also had to inspect your report. In doing all the public speaking, our teachers, and I must really raise my hat to my teachers. I had normal apartheid education at an Indian school, but I had the most amazing teachers who cared about where we went. They cared about where we would end up and gave us every possible opportunity in a very small kind of space. One of my teachers entered me for the Natal Best Speaker competition, which was very well known. There was the Jan Hofmeyr and those kinds of competitions. And off we went, and these are teachers in their own time after work would put us into their little cars and drive us all the way to Durban, a whole hour away in the dark. And there was no GPS, but you would find, some well-heeled, it wasn't Model C even then, right? White school, and we'd go there and that's how it used to be for a lot of the competitions. But the Natal Best Speaker competition took place at the University of Natal. That's what it was called. And I won the first round, I won the second round, but everyone's winning now in the third round and the fourth round. And suddenly I find myself at the finals. And it was in Shepstone 1, and I don't know if any UK, they do actuarial science at UKZN, Cape Town, huh? Yeah, don't go there now. So anyway, so I won it. I won the finals, which earned me the right to represent KwaZulu-Natal at the final at UNISA. It blew my mind, because I grew up in a time where I accepted the fact that we all wore different colors and we got put into our own little boxes, but suddenly I was competing with young people who went to very fancy schools, Michael House and Hilton and all the real Lani schools that had nothing wrong if you went there, guys. Don't get me wrong. People, you don't be sensitive, right? Because this is not going to work out. Yeah, and that triggering thing, I don't do it. Just like, move on. So, and so off I go now to UNISA. And in those days, they sent what they called an air ticket in the mail via the post office, which worked. It was a check. And typical Indian family, my parents decided that we're going to do a road trip, and we were all going to go to Pretoria for the competition. I didn't win it, but I was singled out for the impromptu section, which I thought was really important because anybody can deliver a speech. It was more important to be able to speak off the cuff, as they called it. The second thing that happened to me was that I watched the very first episode of Carte Blanche. The very first. And I had never seen anything, this investigative television journalism, in my life. You don't blame me. It was the 80s. South Africa was burning. Nyalas were in our townships, and there was always some problem. And, you know, I had quite a few cousins who were activists and would disappear for a while. And that was the kind of life that we had. And I see this show, and I see Derek and Ruda and Manu Padiachi, and all these light bulbs just went off in my head. I felt an absolute connection. When the credits went up the screen at the end of the show, I said to my parents, I said, one day I am going to work for this program. And my dad, I heard him say to my mom in the kitchen, he said, Mom, let me tell you something about this girl. She's going to bring us nothing but trouble. My parents were very supportive, and you must remember that in Indian, clearly, right? So you know how you must be doctor, lawyer, actuarist. So proud your parents must be of you. Got the 7 A's, 8 A's, the whole story, went to UCT, and nice. No, very good. You must be clever to do that, very clever. So in my case, I didn't want to do medicine, and I didn't want to go into that kind of field. I didn't want to put my parents through the expense of also sending me to Rhodes, because that's where you went if you wanted to study journalism. So I kept that kind of dream quiet to myself, and I said to my parents, I'm going to go off to the University of Natal, and I'm going to do a bugger all degree. I'm one of those students you probably laughed at. BA degree, guys, BA. I got BA, right? Nothing wrong with it. And I majored in English and drama and performance studies, so qualified, right? And all the while, I was one of those people who just threw myself into everything. I was doing an easy degree, I accepted it, but for me it was a means to an end. And I learned very early on that if you choose something that you really, really love, you will never feel like you've worked a day in your life. And I can tell you, after 30 years in this industry, I do not feel I've worked a single day in my life. It's been hard, yes, because I get clapped and everything now and again. But there's still a kind of excitement I have for my job. At the end of my final year of the Bagaror, I then get invited to do an honors degree in drama and performance studies. And my father said to me, enough of this nonsense, he said, enough. I'm not paying for an acting license. So I said, well, they only invited 7 on the entire class. It's a big deal. I must be good. And he said, yes, but you need to consider where are you going with all this? What's going to happen from here? I then thought to myself, he's right. I need to figure out where am I going to go next. I've always been somebody that I like making money. I'll make money. Yeah, I'm a hustler, guys. I'm a street fighter. I'll make a plan. I look very polished now, but you saw me, right? Yeah. You can't hide from that. When I was at university, to make extra pocket money and make things a bit easier for my parents, I would type assignments for students. I was also one of the chicks that did typing at school that you laughed at probably, but see now. I had a little electric typewriter. I would charge 5 Rand a page, and I got really, really busy because I had this natural ability to correct really badly written assignments in any field as I was typing. So it was quite a money spinner for me, and I made sure I got a job at the university library. So I would grab shifts from people, like $30 a shift then. It was a lot of money. You made a plan. So I then sent my CV off to Radio Port Natal, which then became East Coast Radio in Durban, to KTV, because somebody told me, remember, you're too young to know KTV, some of you here. It was on, don't shake your head and say, no, I'll tell you what it was, then you'll know it for the rest of your life. Mnet had a kids show in the afternoon that was called KTV, and somebody told me that if I unpermed my hair, we all permed our hair and had shoulder pads then I would be able to fit in at KTV. And I thought, that's fabulous, send the CV off there. And then I sent it off to Lotus FM. Now, I don't speak an Indian language at all. I'm not proud of that. But I also grew up in a time where your grandparents and parents were saying to you, speak English, because then you'll be able to get a good job. But now I've applied to Lotus. I go there for the audition. I know it didn't go very well at all. The program manager called me a week later, and he said to me, on the landline, do you remember when you needed a landline, you had to be there when it rang? Because if you weren't there, you didn't get the job. That's how it worked. And he said to me, look, you failed the audition. I'm so sorry to say. He said, because your pronunciation of the song titles are atrocious, exact words. He said, but there's something about you. We think that you could maybe start by reading the news and maybe something will happen. But there's some spark there. I thanked him very much, and I started training. So this was always at night, that 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock shift. I used to job shadow other DJs. One of the DJs was a guy called Khalik Sheriff. And he was a young gun at the station. And for some reason, he and I clicked. He was teaching at the time, he was doing an MBA, and I loved the way that he thought. And he trained me, and before I knew it, they gave me my first shift. And the best news was, before I turned 21, I basically had a job at the SABC, earning very good money in those days. But I still kept the typing and the library shifts. Because that's how you build an empire, guys. I started working for Lotus, and I was doing music shows, and I was really working hard at it because it wasn't a natural thing for me. It was a music show. Like, I didn't care about Bollywood movies, and I didn't know who Shah Rukh Khan was. And I mean, I watch Bollywood movies like the majority of you, read the subtitles and then figure out what's going on. But I realized that I needed to be a sponge and throw myself fully into this radio station, because in those days, Indian people worked for the Indian things. And if you were, Zulu, then you'll go to Kosi FM at the SABC. We were still very compartmentalized. One day, so now I did the honors degree, right? Got the acting license. I decided I'm going to do a higher diploma in education. I don't like wasting time, guys. If there's something to be learned, I must learn it. And I also realized what I could do with a higher diploma in education is that I'll actually have a qualification I could do something with. I could teach. So while I'm studying through UNISA worked in those days, people, let me tell you. You posted your assignment, the original, through the post office, and you'd get your mark back. Can you imagine? And while I was doing the higher diploma in education, I had a friend at the Department of Education in Durban at Truro House who said, Devi, listen, we're looking for locum teachers. So how do you feel about working as a teacher? Because no library job now, finished all of that. I said, great, I'll do it. So I started teaching at Effingham Secondary, which is on the north coast of KZN, while I was doing the higher diploma in education. Fabulous, guys, because now you're doing your assignments, you're trying things in class, young people. It really was one of the happiest times of my life. And I was pretty young then, too. One day, now I'm also doing Lotus shifts. One of the talk show hosts didn't pitch up. So I read the news, and now she's not there. And by that time, Khalik had become the station manager. So I called him. I said, listen, she's not here. What am I supposed to do? He said, no, it's simple. You do the show. I said, okay. What am I going to talk about? He said, talk about anything, just don't stuff it up. This was now in 1996. Here's Devi. I have never in my life chosen the easy path out of anything. And it was an automatic decision for me. I decided I want to talk about identity. Where do South Africans of Indian descent fit in the new South Africa? And what do you believe your contribution is going to be? Because remember, 94 happened. Whole world thinks we're so wonderful. But in my own life and in the environment that I lived in, it was so obvious that there wasn't going to be a magic clap and then we were all going to be friends and it was going to work out. And what I was starting to see is that the division between the race groups was becoming wider and wider, and we were starting to get more and more upset with each other because the rules of engagement had now changed. And I kept thinking, if we're going to build a solid democracy, what are we going to need first and foremost? We're going to need to learn to live, love, and work together. Okay, so the Indian people weren't so happy about what I was talking about that night. Some of them were. There were lots of enlightened people who called in. And then there were others, because I was saying things that I think were hard truths. Because I was saying, but come on, guys. In a sense, we have been the favored stepchildren of apartheid, and now you're not. So what's the plan? But people didn't want to listen to that and accept that for what it was. So the uncle started swearing at me. Very bad words, guys. Very bad. But I still pushed on because in my head I kept saying, but we have a constitution and we're going to have to start to change the way we think and at least learn to engage with each other even if we disagree. Talk shows wasn't something that even occurred on radio stations that catered for people of color. This was all very, very new. At the end of that show, I handed over to the next DJ and I went home. Next day I go to school. Now I'm teaching at Nilgiri Secondary in Marion Hill near Kwandengezi, if any of you know the area. And I walk into the staff room that morning and all the teachers just keep quiet. And I just dropped my bag down. Hi, morning. And the principal comes to me and he says, can I see you in the office, Ms. Govender? Off I go. He said, listen, I heard that show last night. Those people are not going to keep you. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and find you a full-time job here at the school. So I said, was it that bad? He said, yeah, you were a bit... That's all he said. That lunchtime, Khalik called the principal and said, tell her she must get here as soon as she finishes school. Principal comes running to my classroom. He says, ma'am. They call each other ma'am and sir in Indian schools. It's weird. And he said, your boss phoned, so don't worry about volleyball duty, because, as a teacher, you must do volleyball duty. He said, you go straight there. Off I go to the SABC, and everyone's a bit weird around me, even the security guys. I go up to Khalik's office, and he said, sit down. He said, listen, we've got a big problem here. I listened to your show last night. I pulled the tape. My phone hasn't stopped ringing the entire day. People are complaining. All of them are complaining about you. I've never had a single compliment. So I said, well, what did you expect me to do? You asked me to do the show, and I think I did it responsibly, because what's the point of having a talk show if we're not going to discuss the hard issues? And he looked at me and he said, exactly. Whatever you did last night, I want you to do tonight, tomorrow night, and for the whole week. And in time, the original, she didn't lose her job because of me. I just want to make that very clear, right? She moved on to other things. And before I knew it, I was offered a contract at the SABC. I was running a current affairs show and presenting Viewpoint, and the numbers were really doing well. I mean, we had a mixed audience. I mean, we were clapping 5FM and all the top dogs in that time. I resigned from teaching because I thought, yay, my parents were thrilled. You know why? Because for the first time, I was now getting a pension, a medical aid, and a housing subsidy. In their heads, it was like this girl is finally on the right path. The show, I threw myself into that job and everything that came with it. And in 1998, I got a call on a Saturday from Khalik, still the station manager, and he said to me, listen, I've just got this call. Mandela wants to see you. So I was like, yeah, right. Why would Madiba want to see me? He said, exactly. What cuck did you cause this week? So I'm in my head now trying to think what happened on the show. It was hot and hip and things were happening on the show. So I can't remember. We had a few touchy subjects. He said, listen, I'm coming to pick you up right now. We're going there now. Well, does he want to see us now? Yes, he wants to see you now. Off we go to King's House in Durban. We get directed into this big room, beautiful big table. Khadik and I put in the middle of the table, and there's a few of the well-known Indian people walk into the room, the Lanis now. No, the jewelers, the big boys. And a lot of them didn't like me because, I was causing all this drama on air every single night. And many thought I was embarrassing and that I wasn't fulfilling a stereotypical role of being a woman who, shut up and sat in the corner. Madiba walks into the room and he shakes everybody's hand, and I'm totally mesmerized by this. And he sits in front of us, directly in front of me. And the reason why he called that meeting was because we were on the eve of another election. And he was saying that he was very concerned about why is it that South Africans of Indian descent, who were so strong and were activists during apartheid, now suddenly seemed to not want to get involved. Now, Madiba was speaking my language, but nobody told me that when a sitting president is talking, you don't interrupt him. You laugh now, guys. It's not like F.W. de Klerk invited me for tea, but I didn't know how to behave in that moment. And he was talking to me, I understood. So up went my hand. I went, excuse me, Madiba, I know exactly what you're talking about. In that second, Spoon de Bele was sitting next to Madiba. His eyes went like saucers, and he leaned across the table, and he said, my dear, you do not interrupt Madiba when he's talking. Khalik was sitting next to me, kicked me under the table, hard, and here's me, my hand is still up, and I said, no, I know, but Madiba, this is really important, because what I have to tell you is, when I first did the show, I was talking about exactly that, and this is what I think is going on. The room is absolutely silent. I spoke for a few minutes, and Madiba sat back, he looked at me, and he said, yes, I understand what you're saying. Me? I've got the solution. Madiba, here's what we're going to do. You're going to come on my show, right? But there is one condition. I hear an intake of breath behind me. And I said, you're not going to get the questions beforehand. You're going to come there as a sitting president. You can bring any cabinet minister you want. It doesn't matter. But you're going to take those calls live from our viewers, and you're going to answer from your heart. 3 months later, Madiba was on my show, which put me on the map. People, for the first time, he had been on a show that was an entire hour on radio. He answered those questions live as we had agreed. And I think that show changed my life. That single show changed my life, because suddenly here was this unknown entity from Durban who was doing the show. And was able to get Mandela onto a show. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? But it's a story, and I learned from that if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't speak what's in your heart and be truthful to yourself, then you're actually living somebody else's lie, because you're trying to be somebody else. So all of that happens. This is all very nice now, except I want to do Carte Blanche. I get a call from the Sunday Times. They said, listen, how do you feel about writing a weekly column? I said, yes, not a problem. I will do it. I put the phone down, and then I thought, what the hell did you just go and agree to? Because now you have to write this column every single week. But I'm one of those people, in the movie, in the airplane now, and then the anaconda has eaten the pilots. That movie we sometimes have, and I have that movie in my head, right? Because I'm the chick that will land the Kulula at Lanseria. Because I always feel I'd rather say yes to something, and I will learn how to do it. I'll figure out a way of how to make it happen. So I started writing a column for the Sunday Times. A year later, they said, don't you want to be features editor? We think you'd be great. I said, absolutely. I resigned from the SABC, and then I started this whole juggling story. I'm juggling radio work, I'm juggling newspaper work, and now I'm also doing Indian TV work. But let me explain how that worked. We had a program called Eastern Mosaic, and I can tell you, you don't need very many brain cells to be a continuity presenter on television, right? Because somebody else writes the script, you sit there and look very pretty with these huge earrings and an outfit, and you read the auto cue, and I suppose that is where your skill lies. And I was getting bored. I kept thinking, can't I write the script? Can't we do something different? Why can't we do investigative stuff? Because, there's plenty of stories, because I'm in the center of all of this. But the big thing for me was this Carte Blanche story, and I always pictured myself. I pictured being able to confront the CEO of any company just by going through his financials on my own and being able to see where the money went. Because my background has been very arts-based, nothing to do with accounting and financial management or anything like that. So I figured, no, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do an MBA. Because if I do an MBA, I'll be able to learn at least how businesses work, so that when I picture myself doing this Carte Blanche job and when I apply, I'll be the package. Craziest thing I ever did, which is why I so appreciate the kind of work that you do. And because you do it every day, maybe you don't realize the impact that it has on the rest of the country. It's because of people like you that we're able to track where money goes, how it should be spent, etc., etc. And those are no small feats, because it informs not just an entire generation, it informs an entire country on where we go next. Not that everybody listens to you, right? But that's a general thing across the board. Start this MBA, by this time I get married now, right? I'm still married to the same man, in case you're wondering, right? And I do it, and I throw myself wholeheartedly. In my entire academic career, I can tell you I've never gotten a supplementary, except for finance. What is that, guys? I worked so hard of it, and in the end, even when I wrote the sup, I think I got 52%. I'm so embarrassed, because when I look at my entire academic record, I'm one of those people that still goes back to my academic record, except for that finance mark. 5 days before my daughter was born, I sent a showreel off to Carte Blanche. So excited. Showreel, it's a video version of a CV, basically. Off it goes. They call me 6 months later, and they say, come up for an interview. Off I go for the interview in Johannesburg. I was living in Durban still. I had prepared for that interview. I knew every single thing I needed to know about Carte Blanche, because even though I was living on a very small amount of money, I always made sure I had Mnet. Always. Why? So I could watch Carte Blanche. I've got a book at home where I would write notes after every single Carte Blanche about things that I would do better. And I wrote notes to myself. I get the job. They say, great, we love you. We think you're going to be fantastic. You can work from Durban. You do the Durban stories, and off you go. In my industry, this is how they do it. In the beginning, they don't pay you a retainer. You get paid per day. No pension, no medical aid, no nothing. You sort yourself out. And then they see how you go. And then you slowly start to climb, little by little. My first year at Carte Blanche was an absolute disaster, with a capital D. I did 3 stories in the entire year. 3. And you know how Durban people are. Everywhere you go, oh, we thought you were working at Carte Blanche, but we watch your show, we don't see you. Yeah? Like... You want to say, just like, stuff yourself, man. But what was happening was, the producers in Johannesburg didn't know me. I was a big fish in a very small pond. So I needed to get that one story that was going to really click for me, and then it was going to work. But it was devastating. You have this dream since you're 15, and then now you get it, and then you do 3 stories in the whole year. And I'm very hard on myself. I said, if you don't get it, and next year it doesn't work out, then you call it quits and we move on to something else. By this time, I'd finished the MBA. Didn't help, clearly, with the Carte Blanche job. The following year, I remember sitting and looking at those 3 stories I watched over and over and over again. And then I realized what was wrong. Self-sabotage. I didn't even know I was doing it. So in those 3 stories, I looked and sounded like a totally different person. I cut my hair to look like Ruda Landman. Hey guys, I didn't have somebody that looked like me doing that job. I thought that's what that person is supposed to look like. And I dressed like her. And it worked for Ruda, but it wasn't working for me. And when I watched it, I realized you are being inauthentic. You're not yourself on television. And the thing about TV is the minute you try and be somebody else and you're not real, viewers switch off. They have no connection with you. That camera, it's like a microscope on who you are. Every little movement on your face, every single thing about yourself is magnified. So if you're not going to walk your talk, then obviously you're going to have no connection with anybody. I started that year deciding I'm going to be me. I'm going to sound Indian because I am Indian, can't change that. I'm going to do everything the way I normally do, as I do on radio, and then we're going to see what happens. And more importantly, I'm going to land investigatives myself. So I started bringing investigatives from Durban. The first one we did was on the driver's license fraud scam at Rosborough Testing Ground in Durban. And I remembered getting mic'd up, and I said to myself, this is the story, and you're going to make it happen, and you're going to land Magic TV, and you're going to be yourself. I was so pumped with energy. Guess what I did? The minute we opened the car door, I jumped out the car and I ran towards the oak. And the camera guy was like, Devi, wait, Devi, wait, Devi, wait. I didn't realize you have to wait for them to catch up and roll and all of that. And there was me having a full-on fight with the uncle, not scared I was going to get clapped or anything. That story changed my fortune at Carte Blanche. Because, and simple, recipe is simple, Devi was being herself. I wasn't trying to be somebody else. And that's really, for me, where it really took off. 18 fabulous, amazing years. I had a front row seat to history. I traveled. I met the most amazing people. I was in the most dangerous of situations, being assaulted, all of that goes with it. The first time I was assaulted was also in Durban, and I said, well, you've got to figure out, what are you going to do now? You got clapped. It's going to happen again. Do you stay, or do you go do something else with your life? But I cannot explain to you the affinity that I have with my job. I love every single moment of it. I love being able to tell stories, but more importantly, I love being able to expose what is not right on behalf of people who do not have a voice. And it sounds like such a boring thing to say, but I truly, truly believe that, despite all the drama we go through. But there's nothing glamorous about television, I can tell you that right now. Every single night, for me, is like studying for a matric exam the next day. I'm basically an idiot's guide to everything. You've got to know enough to get you over the edge and then land it. Because when you are confronting somebody in his or her job, they would be doing that job for 30, 35, 40 years. And when they say X, I need to be able to say Y. I can't turn around to a producer and say, what must I say? Because then this is the wrong job. This is not presenting. This is being a journalist. And it's about being absolutely exact in the kinds of questions that you ask. I love chasing crooks, and I love the confrontations. Let's just get that out of the way. Everybody says to me, why don't you do the easy stuff, the fun stuff? Yeah, the fun stuff is nice, but you do one fun story, and then for me, I'm ready for the next one that's meaty, that I can actually get my teeth into. When did things get scary? I think things got pretty scary for me during our Eskom exposés at Carte Blanche. Machela Coco, do you need to say anything else? Oh, you didn't watch that episode. Okay, so dial back 2017. We knew that the Guptas were operating everywhere. And one of my contacts had given me minutes of a board meeting from Eskom, which was held on a Friday night at 8 o'clock, which proved that Eskom had made a prepayment of close to 600 million rand to the Guptas, which allowed them to buy Optimum Mine. I wouldn't mind somebody give me that amount of money. I had to go into mining. And we had it, and I arranged an interview with Eskom, and Machelo Koko sat for the interview. And I really think he underestimated what I knew. And I asked him, do you do prepayments? He said, yes, but not very often. Have you done it recently? No, we haven't done it in a very long time. You sure? Yes, I'm very sure. And then, that moment when you slide the piece of paper across the table, guys. Oh, it's so sexy. When you do that, I get so excited. And then his reaction, and that's how you know I got you. Because those confrontations is like playing chess. But it was, that kind of story was done in a time when we didn't even have a name. Now we called it state capture. But at that time, it didn't even have a name. Nobody knew what it was. So, of course, what do most people do? You shoot the messenger. Always shoot the messenger. It only became clear a lot later. So the ETV move was, I just kept feeling like 18 years, very nice, having a nice time, yes, blah, blah. But I wanted my work to be available to South Africans. Not just people who existed and could afford to pay for a DSTV subscription. Because what is the point then? Everyone has a natural evolution, and that was mine. Whenever I'm in this position and I'm not sure what to do next, and I feel like I need to move, it's not like in your case. I saw that video where you get recruitment, and it doesn't work like that in my business. In my business, somebody's got to ask you, like a date thing, right? Because where do you go? Are you pitching a show? If you're pitching a show, then there are producers involved. It gets very complicated. I just put it out to the universe. I said, it's time for me to move on. So you're going to make the plan. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I've got to go and do something a bit different. And I get a call from, guess who? Khalik. Where's Khalik now? Khalik is the big boss at E-Media. He's the boss for ETV, ENCA, and what, right? And he said, yeah, you're still there on that show. It's time for you to grow. So I said, what, you want me to come to free to air? Just like that, right? Because, there was that idea back now, 2018, 2019, free to air, budgets must be small, etc., etc. He said, no, I'm offering you a key to the rest of the country. Think about what you're doing now and what you could do if you have this platform. I thought about it, and then made the decision. Sometimes you just have to close your eyes and leap off the edge of the cliff, because the universe will catch you. If it's your time to go and do something, just trust that it's going to work out, because we spend too much time thinking, is it going to happen, isn't it going to happen? And in my case, leaving a big brand like Carte Blanche, going to, in a sense, build your own brand in a whole other setting is pretty scary, because COVID happened at the same time. I'm hiring people. I decided I'm going to ETV to do a talk show. I laugh now when I think of that. Do you know we even made the couch? The couch was made, and then they said social distancing. Then I thought, who are we going to put on the couch? And we're paying salaries now, camera people, editors, etc. And I'm starting to feel bad. I need to deliver here on something. And in the middle of COVID in June, I decided, what do you want to do? What makes me happy? Chasing crooks. Right. Let's go chase some crooks. And crooks were getting desperate during COVID because their income had been snapped, right? And they were getting brave, so they would meet me in garages, and undercover was actually quite easy to do. And that's how we launched the Devi show. And they put us in a 6 o'clock Friday time slot, the worst slot in television. 6 p.m. on a Friday, because generally nobody's at home, right? Out drinking, having party. Except it's COVID, you're on lockdown. You had no choice but to watch the show. And I figured that out and decided to stick with it, and then we see where it went. It's gone good places. Thank the Lord it worked out. Because there's so many things about television that can totally go wrong. So now when I sit back and I think to myself, here we are. It is a crazy life. How do we fit in work-life balance in everything? It is such a learning curve for me. It's impossible. And I'm the first person to admit it. It's like we juggle all these balls, and I have to say, guys, I think women do have it harder with kids and trying to keep everybody on the same path, and making sure everything is we're heading towards our goals as a family. And I really struggled. I struggled because I was never on a list. You see, because in a list of things, it's always like phone the teacher, sort this out, pay the school fees, do the this, the that. Please, the pool pump is broken, the this, the that. My husband is very sweet, but he says that things get done in our house if I phone the service provider. When he phones, nothing happens apparently. So in my house, I do all of that as well for that damn reason. And then you start to realize that if you don't have that some sort of balance. In 2013, wasn't feeling very well, feeling tired. Yeah, something's not right. I'm a very energetic person. And I went off to see my GP, and they clap the thing on your arm. He said, your blood pressure is a bit high, hey? But Indian people, that's normal for us. Like, Shabir Sheikh, he got paroled because of blood pressure. But it's in our genes, right? So he said, no, it's a bit too high. I want you to see a cardiologist. I went to see a cardiologist, and he said to me, he said, your heart muscle has thickened. I think I was 39 or something silly like that. He said, your heart muscle has thickened. I said, why? He said, because it's working too hard. And like any muscle, you go to gym, you work a muscle, it's going to get hard. This is not good. I said, no, of course it's not good. So I said, what do I do? He said, you've got to change your life. I said, okay, how am I going to change my life? I work for Carte Blanche. People are trying to kill me every day. He said, you're going to have to figure out a way. And it started a process for me. I'm not there yet. 2013, look at where we are now, right? Like, it's been 10 years. I don't have it 100%. But I'll tell you what I did. I don't open my laptop on a weekend. You don't understand. It took me so long before I was even able to do that. And you must remember, half my life is on social media. If you're not responding to people, because you know how crazy those Twitter people are, you got to be online to see what they're doing. I had to tell myself, you can't do that. I needed to build in yoga. I'm a yoga queen, by the way. Not doing down dog here, right? But I try to find something that really makes me happy. And on top of that, 2 very busy children. You all get that. And I mean, when we went to school, we didn't pay for extra tennis and extra this and extra that. Now there's extra monkey gymnastics, guys, and all of that. And I had to start to figure out, how do I do it in a way that works for me, but also feeds my soul? So even in me saying all of that, I don't have an answer for you. They asked me to tell you about work-life balance. I said, I'll be honest. I'm telling you about work-life balance. And I'm saying to you, it's going to be a while before I get it 100% myself. But I do not answer phone calls now after 8. That's the other thing. And I realize if you've got a boss who has the expectation that you need to answer your phone after 8 o'clock, you're on the wrong job. No, guys. You know, when you're on the plane, they tell you how you must put your oxygen mask first before you help anybody else. That's what that is all about. If you don't look after yourself. So I'm not pre-hypertensive anymore. My heart muscle unthickened by being a good girl and paying attention to myself. And I see a cardiologist every single year, and I'm going to keep it like that. Because as much as I love my job, sometimes we love our jobs too much. And it can kill you. Bottom line. And then when you did, guys, yeah, I need to be on top of my kids and everybody, so I won't do that. So in closing, there's something I think special about being in a space and doing a job that I love, and also about living in a country where we've got our drama. Let's not lie about that. But I'm not afraid to also speak my truth. Because I'm not scared that government is going to come kill me and then I'm going to be dirt somewhere. You know, I'm more scared, really, about tow truck operators at this point. But the thing that I learned for myself is it's important to have those dreams, try and make it happen, work towards it all the time, learn to pivot very quickly and change things as it happens. But when I look back on the last 30 years of my life, I think my own community told me that I looked too Indian, I sounded too Indian, and I would never make it on national television working as an investigative television journalist. And there's only one way I did it, and that's by working hard at it every single day. I'm doing just that even now. None of us will ever arrive and think we're there and it's totally amazing. You got to keep at it, right? Because if you don't, some other oak wants your job and he'll get it. Because he'll answer his phone at 8 o'clock. Therein lies the difference. All right, guys, I'm at the end of my keynote, and I thought we could maybe take a few questions now. You're going to work out what's coming through online in the meantime. There are roving mics that are here. Please don't feel shy. You can ask anything. Okay, not anything, but you... Yeah, so you know what I mean. So if you pick a hand up, and if we don't get the mic to you, I will repeat your question. Here's a question right here at the front. Don't wait for the mic, it'll take too long. Maybe no, it's coming. No, it's coming. Here we go. Thank you so much. Oh. Just give me your name.
Hi, my name is Peter. Thank you for the work that you do as an investigative journalist. It's really good. We need to have the fourth estate holding everybody accountable. So first of all, thank you there. There's always a risk that people are going to try and use you as a way of settling scores rather than you doing the work you're supposed to do, which is catching crooks. How do you protect yourself from being a tool that's being misused, to settle someone's scores?
It's so easy to get used because suddenly I put my sources through the mill. Because now you're a source, you want to talk to me and tell me your story. When you were working there in that company and getting the bonus, why didn't you open your mouth? Why now? What happened now that you feel you need to talk about based on the last 10 or 15 years that you worked somewhere, and why didn't you do it then? Lots of reasons. People are normally afraid, they're in the environment, but sources often have their own agenda. And unless you figure out what their agenda is and fast, and I'd like to think I'm quite good at that, because when you meet people after a while, some people, when you look at them, it's totally clear, there's no dark patches, everybody knows what they're doing, and you can see that person is relatively honest. That's my biggest thing, is to make sure that sources, you got to press them. That's my gangster word. And they've got to also feel the heat, because otherwise, you're going to tell your story as anonymous, nobody knows who you are, but you're going to use my face telling it. See, so I take the risk then. And then I need to calculate how is this going to feed my brand? Is it going to grow my brand, or is it going to damage my brand? So that's the first thing that I always do. But we are inundated with sources right now. And can actually be a bit soul-destroying when you realize the kind of agendas that they do have. Thanks for that. There's a question right there. Please keep your hand up so that we can see you. Right there. Here we go. There. Thank you so much. Somebody is going to him. How's it?
Hi. Thanks for taking the question. Maybe to build on the last one, have you ever been in a position where you're speaking to someone about, you think they've done something wrong, and then in the middle of it you notice, oh shit, but this is actually the good guy. Have you ever been in such a position, and how did you handle it then?
Yes, it's happened to me once when I was at Carte Blanche in my early years. You can research something for weeks and think that you've got it absolutely right. And there was this one particular story. I'm sitting in front of the guy, and as he's answering, I'm realizing we've got the wrong guy. It's not him. It's obvious. And when that happened, immediately I turned to the producer and I said, "Can I chat to you outside?" And I said, "We've got the wrong guy. Look, listen to what he's saying." And I think the good thing was, in that moment, she accepted that we were wrong. And I went back in there and I said to him, I said, "I'm sorry, but I think we've got the wrong guy, but you're going to help me get the right guy." Which is exactly what happened. And since that incident, I always remind myself, I need to be not 99% sure, I need to be 100% sure in my mind before I confront somebody that person did what I'm saying that they did based on hard evidence. Because if I'm not, his wife's got to go to work on Monday and his kids have to go to school the next day. And here I am calling him out to best I'm sure. So yes, that has happened. once. I don't need to learn that lesson 2 times. We've got a question on this side. I'm also keeping an eye on time here. Yes, hi. Just keep your hand up so we can see.
Hi, I'm Nimisha. Devi, thank you for your absolutely inspirational talk. Being an Indian woman, all the juggling and the lack of work-life balance resonated with me. My question is, you're aware of the brain drain that we have in South Africa, and for every crook that you catch, there are probably 100 more out there. Have you ever become despondent, thought about immigrating yourself, or has it just made you more determined to catch more of them? What are your thoughts around that?
Good question. I'm not blind to what's going on in South Africa, and I do think we're in a bad place. That's facts, right? And the only encouragement I can make is please go out and vote next year. I don't care who you vote for, but it's not National Bride Day. Because that's what a lot of people do. It's National Bride Day, nobody wants to stand in the lines because it's too hot. Hello? So you get the government you deserve then. What do you expect? So do I ever feel despondent because I put my life on the line together with my team members every single day? And I used to feel despondent until I realized I'm not running around with a set of handcuffs and an arrest warrant. I wish I did. I really wish I did. I was able to do that, but that's not my job. The police need to do that job. And in 30 years of doing this work, not once have the police ever come to me and said, please let's share information, because I've got addresses, I've got phone numbers, and I do it the old-fashioned way. I don't have crazy technology that's going to help me find people, etc., and pinging numbers, and you can't do any of that. So, yes, the despondency is often there, but that doesn't mean I must stop what I'm doing. You see, I still got to fulfill my life's purpose and do what needs to be done. And then it's out there, and I'd like to think that we try and make South Africans smarter. I can't put the oak in jail, but I can make you smarter. So the next time somebody in church says, please buy Bitcoin from person X, you say no. That's the best that I can do. Have I ever thought of emigrating? I am proudly South African. And, you know, there's no plan B. For me, this is the plan. But when I think about my children, do I want my children to live here? I'm not so sure that I can gamble with my children's future. My daughter is finishing her final year for golf scholarship at the University of North Carolina, which she earned on her own. She's a fantastic golf player. But she said to me 2 weeks ago, she wants to come back to South Africa and turn pro here. And I just thought, well, in one way, thank God, because you know how expensive it's going to be for me now to keep her living there, because it was a scholarship all this while. And now, but I also thought to myself, I said to her, but what do you want to do at the end of it? And she said, Mom, I just want to be able to play good golf, and I just feel that this is what I want to do next year, and then we'll take it from there. And I thought, I've got to give her that as well. She's been away from home for a long time. I would like my children to spread their wings. I would like them to do so because they live in a global environment for young people. And I think you're going to have to make those decisions yourself. I sometimes feel I also don't want to be that person that switches the light off because I'm the last one to leave. But they don't want me in India, guys. I don't speak their language. I already told you that, right? So that ain't going to work out at all. My plan is to continue staying here and do what I do because it would feed my soul. I would be desperately unhappy if I wasn't catching crooks, and that's the truth of it. Thank you. We've got time for maybe one more, guys. You tell me.
One more. Hi.
One more. We've got somebody here.
Hi, Devi. Thank you so much for just sharing your story and just for being your authentic self. My name is Nell. I actually wanted to ask, what is Devi looking forward to over the next couple of years, like over the next 5 years? What's up? What's coming up? What should we be looking forward to?
I'll tell you what. So I've been sitting on 2 boards, but like NGO things, they don't pay you for that, right? But I like that I'm in the way my brain is configured. I can see the drama coming from your financial statements, income statement, all of that, right? And reading the environment. So I am looking for interesting board positions, but I'm also looking for former board members who will have somebody like me along. Because I say it the way it is. I may not have that kind of institutional knowledge that may bend itself towards 50 or 60 years, but I've got a different kind of knowledge in my mind that not only did I work hard for, but it's speaking truth from my heart. So that's what I want to do. And beyond that, I'd like to keep my show going. I'd like to migrate to a talk show at some point because it is a bit easier. And I'd like to go back to radio at some point in my life. So those are my, got to make that MBA work, guys. I suffered for that thing, right? I really did. Thank you very much. You've been a lovely audience, and thank you. You know, I have to say this. You know how they say actuaries are boring? You know they say that about you, right? You know that. Lies, guys. Absolute lies. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks.